She was not merely dismissed, she was erased on her wedding night by the very alpha king the sacred bond had chosen. While the candles still burned and her scent still clung to his skin, he delivered a sentence so cold, so calculated, that it shattered everything she believed about their union. Wounded and exiled, she was sent away to a distant estate where she learned something the king had never anticipated. Disappearing could become freedom. And when she returned to court months later, different, desired, no longer willing to bend, the mate who had discarded her felt the bond scream with something dangerous the moment he saw her. Poppy never imagined that the most devastating moment of her life would happen in a marriage bed still warm from their vows. For the court and their families, it was an opportunity to celebrate power, strengthen alliances, and witness the continuation of the royal bloodline. But in the private chambers where intimacy should have lived, Kaylee looked at his new bride with cold calculation and spoke words that would shatter everything. "Give me an heir. And when you do, disappear." The grand hall of the Silver Moon Palace still echoed with music when Poppy walked through the corridor toward her new chambers. Her wedding gown trailed behind her, heavy silk embroidered with silver thread that caught the candlelight. Every step felt weighted with expectation. She was now queen, mate to Alpha King Kaylee. The ceremony had been flawless. Hundreds of pack members had witnessed their union, their voices rising in ceremonial howls that shook the stone walls. Kaylee had placed the mating mark on her neck with precision, his teeth breaking skin just enough to seal the bond. The crowd had roared approval. But throughout it all, his eyes had remained distant. Poppy told herself it was nerves, that the weight of kingship made intimacy difficult, that time would soften the edges between them. She pushed open the chamber doors. The room was prepared for them. Candles burned on every surface, casting warm light across silk sheets the color of moonlight. Rose petals scattered the floor. The scent of jasmine hung thick in the air. Kaylee stood by the window, still dressed in his ceremonial robes. He didn't turn when she entered. "The ceremony was beautiful," Poppy said softly, closing the door behind her. "It served its purpose." His voice was neutral, administrative. She moved closer, her heart beating faster. "I know this arrangement wasn't what either of us imagined, but I believe we can build something real. Given time." He finally turned to face her. His expression wasn't cold exactly, it was simply absent of warmth. "Come here," he said. Poppy approached, hope flickering in her chest. Perhaps now, in private, he would show her the tenderness that had been missing from their courtship. Kaylee's hands moved to the fastenings of her gown with practiced efficiency. There was no reverence in his touch, no pause to appreciate the moment. He undressed her the way a man might unwrap a tool he needed to use. The consummation that followed was mechanical. His body performed its function. Hers responded despite the emptiness she felt growing in her chest. The bond hummed between them, biological and binding, but utterly devoid of emotion. When it ended, Kaylee rose from the bed immediately. He walked to the wash basin, cleaning himself with the same efficient movements he'd used to undress her. Poppy lay beneath the silk sheets, her body still processing what had just occurred. She waited for him to return to bed, to hold her, to speak words that might bridge the chasm between duty and desire. Instead, he pulled on his robe and moved to the desk near the window. "Kaylee?" Her voice was small in the vast chamber. He glanced at her briefly, his hand adjusting the heavy signet ring on his finger. The ring bore the royal seal, a wolf's head crowned in silver. "You performed adequately," he said, as if reviewing a servant's work. The words struck her like a physical blow. "I don't understand," she whispered. Kaylee sat in the chair by the desk, looking at her with the same expression he might give a ledger that needed balancing. "I need you to understand your role clearly, so there's no confusion moving forward." He spoke calmly, each word measured. "You are queen in title only. Your primary function is biological." Poppy pulled the sheet higher, suddenly aware of her nakedness in a way she hadn't been moments before. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I need an heir. The bloodline must continue. Your family's genetics are compatible with mine, and your political connections are useful but not essential." He paused, ensuring she was following. "Once you've provided that heir, your duties to this throne will be complete." The candles continued burning. The rose petals still scattered the floor. Nothing in the room had changed, yet everything had shifted irrevocably. "Complete?" Poppy repeated. Kaylee's expression didn't waver. "I will ensure you're provided for. Land, income, security. You'll want for nothing materially. but your presence at court will no longer be required. You're sending me away? Not immediately, not until the child is born and weaned. But yes, eventually, that will be the arrangement. Poppy's mind struggled to process his words. You're dismissing me? Your queen? Your mate? I'm releasing you from obligations you were never suited for. He said it as if conferring a favor. Court life is demanding. The responsibilities of queenship extend far beyond producing an heir. I'm sparing you those burdens. I never asked to be spared. Nevertheless, Kaylee stood, moving toward the door that connected to his private study. I suggest you rest. The process of conception can take time, and you'll need your strength. Wait, Poppy sat up fully now, clutching the sheet against her chest. You can't just use me and discard me like I'm nothing. He paused, his hand on the door handle. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Not regret, exactly. Perhaps the faintest recognition that his words had landed harshly. You're not nothing, Poppy. You're a means to an end, a necessary component of succession. That's not insignificant. It's not love either. No, he agreed simply. It's not. The door to his study opened. Give me an heir, Kaylee said, his voice carrying the absolute authority of a king delivering a command. And when you do, disappear. Then he stepped through the door and closed it behind him. Poppy sat in the marriage bed, surrounded by candles and rose petals and silk sheets that still held the warmth of their bodies. The mating mark on her neck throbbed with a bond that connected her to a man who viewed her as livestock. She didn't cry. Tears required the belief that emotion might change something, and Kaylee had made it clear that emotion played no role in this arrangement. Instead, she lay back down, staring at the canopy above the bed. The silk fabric rippled slightly in the draft from the window. She had married a throne, not a man, and the throne had already decided she was disposable. The candles burned lower. The jasmine scent grew cloying. Poppy's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, to the place where an heir might already be taking root. The heir that would grant her freedom, or seal her exile. She closed her eyes, but sleep refused to come. Her mind replayed every moment of the ceremony, searching for signs she'd missed. The way Kaylee's vows had been perfectly recited, but devoid of feeling. The way his hand had held hers with exactly enough pressure to appear committed, without conveying actual warmth. The way everyone had celebrated a union that was nothing more than a breeding contract. Poppy had entered this marriage believing endurance would eventually transform into affection. That patience and devotion might soften a king's heart. She understood now how foolish that belief had been. Kaylee didn't need his heart softened. He needed his bloodline secured, and she was simply the vessel he'd chosen to carry it. 3 weeks after the wedding, Poppy received her first official summons to the throne room. She dressed carefully in the emerald gown that Lydia Mills, her new lady-in-waiting, had laid out. The color supposedly brought out her eyes, though Poppy doubted Kaylee would notice. He hadn't returned to her chambers since the wedding night. The throne room was filled with advisors when she entered. Bruce Richmond stood near the king's right hand, his weathered face impassive. Simone Turlow hovered nearby, his fingers stained with ink from endless document preparation. Kaylee sat on his throne with perfect posture, reviewing a stack of papers. He glanced up when Poppy approached, acknowledging her presence with a slight nod. "Your Majesty," she said, bowing her head in the formal greeting she'd been taught. "Poppy," he set the papers aside. "We need to discuss arrangements." Her stomach tightened. "Arrangements? Your continued residence at the palace is becoming a subject of court gossip." Kaylee's tone remained neutral, discussing her exile the way another man might discuss crop rotation. "People are beginning to question the distance between us." "Perhaps if you visited occasionally, the gossip would cease," Poppy said quietly. Bruce Richmond's eyebrow twitched upward, the only sign that anyone had registered her comment. Kaylee continued as if she hadn't spoken. "I've arranged for you to take residence at the Clearwater Estate. It's 3 days' ride from the capital, situated on excellent land with all necessary amenities. You're sending me away. I'm providing you with a home befitting your station." He gestured to Simone, who stepped forward with a rolled parchment. "The estate includes a main house, servants' quarters, stables, and extensive grounds. You'll have a household staff of 20, guards for your protection, and an allowance generous enough to maintain your comfort indefinitely." Poppy accepted the parchment without unrolling it. "When?" "Within the week. Lydia Mills will accompany you, along with Clara Conway as your second attendant." Ronald Bridges will serve as estate manager. Everything had already been decided. Her input wasn't required. And if I refuse? The question hung in the air. Bruce Richmond shifted his weight almost imperceptibly. Simone's fingers tightened on his remaining documents. Kaylee's expression didn't change. On what grounds would you refuse a generous estate and full financial support? On the grounds that I'm your wife, your queen. My place is at your side. Your place, Kaylee said with careful enunciation, is wherever I determine it to be. The alpha command rippled through his words, not quite forceful enough to compel obedience, but present enough to remind everyone in the room of the power differential. Poppy felt the bond pull taut between them, urging submission. She resisted. The court will talk regardless, she said. A queen in exile raises more questions than a queen who lives separately from her husband. Let them question. Kaylee leaned back in his throne. The official statement will indicate that you prefer the quiet of country life, that the demands of court exhaust your delicate constitution. I'm not delicate. The statement will say you are. He picked up another document, his attention already moving past her. Simone will handle the public narrative. You'll be portrayed sympathetically. A gentle soul overwhelmed by palace intrigue, mercifully granted respite by her understanding husband. It was brilliant, Poppy realized with growing horror. He was erasing her from court, while making himself appear magnanimous. She would be removed without martyrdom, disappeared without scandal. When do I return? She asked. Kaylee's pen paused over the document he was signing. Return? To the palace, to court. Surely this isn't permanent. The silence that followed answered her question more clearly than words could. Finally, Kaylee set down his pen and looked at her directly. Poppy, I told you your function on our wedding night. Nothing has changed. Once you've fulfilled that function, there will be no reason for your return. And if I never conceive? Something flickered across his face. Annoyance, perhaps. Then we'll address that circumstance when necessary. Medical intervention exists for such difficulties. He was discussing her fertility as if planning a construction project. You can't just hide me away like an embarrassment, Poppy said, her voice rising despite her effort to remain calm. I'm not hiding you. I'm positioning you appropriately. Kaylee stood from his throne, towering over her. The Clearwater estate is beautiful. You'll have freedom there that you'd never possess at court. Freedom to spend your days as you wish, to cultivate whatever interests suit you, to live without the constant scrutiny that comes with queenship. I never asked for freedom from my responsibilities. Nevertheless, you're receiving it. He gestured to Bruce Richmond. Ensure the transition happens smoothly. I want no complications. Bruce bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. Kaylee moved toward the private exit behind his throne, clearly considering the matter settled. What if I'm already carrying your child? Poppy called after him. He paused, turning slightly. Then you'll be given the finest medical care available, and the child will be brought to the palace when appropriate. You'll be compensated handsomely for your service. Service, not motherhood, not partnership, service. I see, Poppy said softly. Kaylee's expression softened marginally, the closest he'd come to showing actual emotion since their wedding. This isn't cruelty, Poppy, it's clarity. I'm providing you with security and comfort. Many in your position would be grateful. Many in my position would be wives, not incubators. His jaw tightened. You knew what this marriage was when you accepted it. I knew it was arranged. I didn't know I was being purchased for breeding and disposal. Then you were naive. He turned fully toward the exit. The carriages will be ready in 3 days. I suggest you prepare. He left without another word, his advisors trailing behind him like shadows. Poppy stood alone in the throne room, the parchment describing her new prison clutched in her hands. The morning light streamed through the high windows, illuminating the empty throne. She had just been exiled with courtesy, dismissed with generosity, erased with kindness. And there was absolutely nothing she could do about it. The 3 days passed in a blur of packing and false sympathy. Court ladies visited her chambers, expressing theatrical sadness over her departure, while their eyes gleamed with curiosity. Pamela Brock brought her a parting gift, a silver hairbrush that Poppy would never use. Country air will do you good, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Lydia Mills proved more genuine, her quiet efficiency a comfort amid the chaos. She packed Poppy's belongings without commentary, her face carefully neutral. On the final evening, Poppy stood in her chambers one last time. The rose petals from her wedding night had long been swept away. The candles had been replaced, The room showed no evidence that anything significant had occurred within its walls. Clara Conway appeared in the doorway, her round face uncertain. "The carriages are ready, Your Majesty. We should depart before dark." Poppy took one last look at the marriage bed where her hopes had died. Then she walked out of the palace that would never be her home, toward an exile wrapped in the prettiest words power could buy. The Clearwater estate was beautiful in a way that made Poppy's chest ache. Rolling hills stretched toward distant mountains, and a clear stream wound through the property, giving the land its name. The main house was smaller than the palace but elegant, built from golden stone that glowed in the afternoon sun. It was a cage made of luxury, and Poppy hated it on sight. Ronald Bridges greeted them at the entrance, a man in his late 40s with silver threading through his dark hair. His bow was respectful but not obsequious. "Your Majesty, welcome to Clearwater. I hope the journey wasn't too taxing." "It was long," Poppy said, stepping down from the carriage with Lydia's assistance. "The staff has prepared your chambers. Dinner will be ready within the hour." Ronald's eyes were kind but distant, maintaining proper boundaries. "If you need anything, you have only to ask." The household staff assembled in a line, each bowing as Poppy passed. She recognized none of them, which was likely intentional. Kaylee would have ensured that no one with loyalty to her accompanied her into exile. Her chambers occupied the entire second floor of the east wing. The rooms were spacious and well-appointed, filled with furniture that showed actual taste rather than mere expense. Someone had placed fresh flowers on every surface, as if beauty might compensate for imprisonment. Lydia began unpacking while Clara explored the adjoining sitting room, exclaiming over the view of the gardens. Poppy moved to the window and looked out at the estate that would define the boundaries of her world. "It's lovely," Lydia said quietly, appearing beside her. "It's a prison." Perhaps. Lydia's pragmatism was oddly comforting, but prisons can be survived, sometimes even transformed. Into what? That depends on you. The first weeks passed in a haze of adjustment. Poppy woke each morning to silence instead of the palace's constant activity. She took meals in a dining room meant for 12, sitting alone at the head of a table that emphasized her isolation. Ronald managed the estate with quiet competence, appearing daily to review household matters that didn't actually require her input. He was giving her purpose where none existed, Poppy realized. Letting her feel involved in decisions that were essentially already made. She appreciated the kindness, even as it highlighted how little power she actually possessed. Clara tried to maintain cheerfulness, chattering about the garden flowers and the softness of the linen, and how much better the country air smelled compared to the city. Poppy let her talk, finding odd comfort in the meaningless observations. Lydia observed everything with quiet intelligence, saying little but missing nothing. 1 month into her exile, Poppy began walking the estate grounds daily. At first, she told herself it was for exercise. Then she admitted it was because the walls of the house made her feel suffocated. She discovered the stream's source in a small waterfall hidden among the trees. She found wildflowers growing in patterns that suggested someone had once cultivated them intentionally. She met the stable master, a gruff woman named Mabel Haskins, who treated Poppy like a person rather than a title. And she began to notice things about herself that had been suppressed at the palace. She liked walking in the early morning when the mist still clung to the ground. She preferred simple food to elaborate court cuisine. She enjoyed silence more than conversation, solitude more than society. These small discoveries felt like remembering pieces of herself that had been buried under the weight of expectations. 2 months into her exile, a visitor arrived. Ronald announced her during breakfast. "Lydia McCarthy to see you, Your Majesty. She's a healer from the neighboring territory. She says she's been sent to ensure your health is maintained." Poppy set down her tea. "I didn't request a healer. The king arranged it," Ronald said carefully. "Apparently, she's to visit monthly." "Of course. Kaylee would want to ensure his investment remained healthy. Send her in." Lydia McCarthy entered with the confidence of someone who didn't recognize social hierarchies as meaningful. She was perhaps 30, with dark hair pulled back in a practical braid and eyes that assessed everything clinically. "Your Majesty," she bowed perfunctorily. "I'm here to examine you and ensure you're maintaining appropriate health." "Appropriate for what?" Poppy asked, though she knew the answer. "For conception and carrying a child to term." Lydia McCarthy's bluntness was almost refreshing. "Shall we proceed?" The examination was thorough and professional. Lydia McCarthy asked questions about Poppy's cycles, her diet, her sleep patterns, her stress levels. She pressed cold hands against Poppy's abdomen and listened to her heartbeat with instruments Poppy didn't recognize. Finally, she sat back. "You're perfectly healthy, physically. There's no reason you shouldn't conceive. And if I don't want to?" Lydia McCarthy's expression didn't change. "That's not a medical question. That's a personal one. Can you help me prevent it? Conception?" The healer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you asking me to interfere with the king's directives? I'm asking if you serve me or him." For a long moment, Lydia McCarthy said nothing. Then she began packing her instruments with deliberate slowness. "I serve health," she said finally. "And sometimes the healthiest thing for a woman is control over her own body. But I can't give you that control without risk to both of us. So I have no choice. You always have choices, just not easy ones." Lydia McCarthy stood, shouldering her bag. "I'll return next month. In the meantime, eat well, walk daily, and perhaps consider what you actually want rather than what you're afraid of." She left before Poppy could respond. 3 months into exile, Poppy began to change in ways she didn't initially recognize. She stopped checking for messages from the palace. She stopped dressing formally for dinner when she was eating alone. She started spending afternoons in the library, reading books she selected based on interest rather than educational value. Ronald noticed the shift and adjusted accordingly. He began asking her actual questions about estate management, respecting her answers rather than humoring them. Clara's cheerfulness became less performative and more genuine as Poppy responded to it naturally, rather than tolerating it politely. And Lydia Mills, who had maintained perfect professional distance, slowly became something approaching a friend. One evening after dinner, Lydia found Poppy in the library. "May I speak freely, Your Majesty?" "Please." Lydia sat across from her, folding her hands in her lap. "You've stopped acting like a woman waiting to return to her real life. Because I've realized this is my real life." "And how does that feel?" Poppy considered the question honestly. "Terrifying, lonely, but also quieter than I expected. In a good way, I think." "The king sent you away to diminish you," Lydia said carefully. "But diminishment requires your participation. You can refuse to shrink." "How?" "By deciding who you are now, rather than mourning who you were supposed to be." The words settled into Poppy's chest like stones dropping into still water, creating ripples that would spread for weeks to come. "Who do you think I could be?" Poppy asked. Lydia smiled slightly. "That's not for me to answer, but I've watched you these months. You're stronger than you believe, smarter than you've been allowed to show, and far less helpless than the king assumes. He doesn't think about me at all." "Then you have the advantage. He's forgotten you exist. That means he's stopped watching what you do." Poppy looked at the book in her lap, a history of Pack territories before the current kingdom had formed. Stories of women who had ruled in their own right before marriage became the primary path to power. "I don't want revenge," she said quietly. "I'm not suggesting revenge. I'm suggesting you stop waiting for permission to exist fully." Lydia Mills stood, smoothing her skirt. "Good night, Your Majesty. Sleep well." That night, Poppy lay in her bed, listening to the stream rushing past the estate. The sound had irritated her when she first arrived, constant and inescapable. Now she found it soothing. Exile had been meant to erase her. Instead, it was revealing who she'd been before the palace had tried to reshape her into something useful. And that person, Poppy was beginning to suspect, might be someone worth discovering. 5 months into her exile, 2 men arrived at Clearwater Estate under entirely different circumstances, and both changed something fundamental about how Poppy understood herself. Armani Lambert came first, sent by the king to assess the property's financial productivity. He arrived on a gray morning when fog still clung to the valley, riding a black horse that moved with the same controlled grace as its rider. Ronald introduced him in the drawing room. "Your Majesty, this is Armani Lambert, the royal treasurer. He's here to review the estate's accounts." Armani bowed, his movements precise. He was perhaps 30, with dark eyes that assessed everything with calm intelligence. Not handsome in any conventional way, but compelling in the manner of men who understood their own competence. "Your Majesty, thank you for accommodating my visit." "I wasn't aware I had a choice," Poppy said, then immediately regretted the bitterness in her tone. Something flickered in Armani's expression. Amusement, perhaps. "Fair enough. I'll try to complete my review quickly, so as not to disrupt your household." He was supposed to stay 3 days. He stayed a week. Poppy told herself it was because the accounts were complex, that Ronald's meticulous record-keeping required thorough examination. But she knew the real reason had nothing to do with numbers. Armani Lambert looked at her like she was a person, not a title. He joined them for dinner the second evening at Ronald's invitation. Poppy had protested initially, uncomfortable with the informality, but Ronald had been quietly insistent. The man has to eat somewhere. Better here where the food is good than alone in his rooms. So Armani sat at her table and they talked. Not about the king, not about court, not about her exile or his duties or any of the heavy topics that usually weighted conversation. Instead, they discussed books. He'd noticed the volume on her side table, a treatise on coastal pack territories, and had opinions about the author's biases. He completely ignores the Western tribes, Armani said, cutting into his roasted chicken with efficient movements. Treats them like footnotes when they controlled a third of the coastline for 2 centuries. I noticed that too, Poppy said, leaning forward slightly. He mentions them once in 12 chapters. Lazy scholarship, or deliberate erasure, hard to say which is worse. They debated the point while Clara and Lydia exchanged glances across the table, and Ronald hid a smile behind his wine glass. The next evening, Armani asked if he might walk the grounds after dinner. I've been inside reviewing ledgers all day. Fresh air would be welcome. Of course, Poppy said, then found herself adding, I usually walk in the evenings. You're welcome to join me if you'd like company. His smile was slow and genuine. I'd like that. They walked the path along the stream as the sun set, turning the water gold and orange. Armani asked about the estate, and Poppy found herself answering honestly rather than diplomatically. It's beautiful, she admitted. But I can't help feeling it's a very lovely cage. Because it wasn't your choice. Exactly. They walked in silence for a moment, their footsteps synchronized without effort. Can I ask you something potentially inappropriate? Armani said. Poppy's heart beat faster. Yes. Do you ever wish you could just walk away from all of it? The title, the expectations, the whole structure? The question should have felt dangerous. Instead, it felt like relief. Every day, Poppy whispered. Armani stopped walking, turning to face her. They stood close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, the slight stubble along his jaw. What would you do if you could walk away? No one had ever asked her that. I don't know, she said honestly. Travel, maybe. Read books that have nothing to do with politics or lineage. Learn something completely impractical, like painting or music. She laughed self-consciously. That sounds foolish. It sounds like a person who's never been allowed to want things for herself. His hand moved slightly, as if he might reach for hers. Then he seemed to remember himself and tucked it behind his back instead. The almost touch affected Poppy more than actual contact would have. We should head back, she said, her voice unsteady. It's getting dark. They walked back to the house in charged silence. Gregory Hobbs arrived a week after Armani left, and where Armani's presence had been subtle fire, Gregory's was steady warmth. He'd been sent by Bruce Richmond to assess the estate's security measures, a routine check that normally wouldn't merit personal attention from the king's chief military advisor. But Gregory made it clear from the start that he took his assignment seriously. Your safety is paramount, Your Majesty, he said during their first meeting. I'm here to ensure the current measures are adequate. Gregory was built like a soldier, broad-shouldered and scarred, with gray eyes that missed nothing. But his voice was gentle when he spoke to her, and his movements careful, as if conscious of his own size. He found flaws in the security immediately. Guards positioned inefficiently, patrol routes that left gaps, inadequate protocols for threat assessment. I'll need 2 weeks to implement improvements, he told Ronald. If that's acceptable. Ronald glanced at Poppy, letting her make the decision. Of course, she said, whatever is necessary. Gregory integrated into the household differently than Armani had. Where Armani had been intellectual connection, Gregory offered something more grounded. He fixed things. When Poppy mentioned that the library windows stuck, Gregory appeared the next morning with tools and had it operating smoothly within an hour. When Clara complained about the garden gate squeaking, Gregory oiled it that afternoon. When Mabel mentioned the stable roof leaked, Gregory spent a full day patching it himself rather than delegating. You don't have to do that, Poppy told him, finding him in the stable one afternoon. You're here for security, not repairs. Gregory looked down from the ladder where he was securing new boards. Security is about more than guards and weapons. It's about making sure people feel safe in their environment. Hard to feel safe when everything is falling apart around you. He climbed down, wiping his hands on a cloth. Poppy couldn't help noticing the way his shirt pulled across his shoulders, the strength in his forearms. Besides, Gregory continued, I like working with my hands. Court work is all strategy and paperwork. This is simple, satisfying. Do you miss it, Court? Sometimes. The clarity of purpose mostly. Knowing exactly what's expected. He paused, studying her with those calm gray eyes. But I don't miss the politics, the constant positioning, everyone trying to determine everyone else's angle. What's your angle? Poppy asked, surprising herself with the directness. Gregory smiled slightly. I don't have one. I was asked to assess security. I'm assessing security, that's all. No one operates without angles. Then maybe my angle is doing my job well enough that I'm asked to stay longer than 2 weeks. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Would you want to stay? Poppy asked quietly. Yes, Gregory said simply. I would. Over the following days, Poppy found herself seeking Gregory's company the way she had with Armani. But the dynamic felt different. Where conversations with Armani had sparked with intellectual challenge, time with Gregory settled into comfortable ease. He taught her to identify weak points in defensive structures, showing her how attackers thought. She taught him about the books in her library, sharing passages she found meaningful. One afternoon, they sat in the garden while Gregory sharpened his knives, the rhythmic sound of stone on steel oddly peaceful. Can I ask you something? Poppy said. Always. Do you think the king will ever send for me? Really send for me? I mean, not for function, but because he wants me there? Gregory's hands stilled. Do you want him to? Poppy considered the question honestly. I don't know. I used to. Now I'm not sure what I want. That's growth, Gregory said quietly. Wanting something is easy. Knowing what you want is harder. What do you want? The question slipped out before Poppy could stop it, too personal for the careful boundaries they'd maintained. Gregory set down his knife and looked at her directly. Right now, I want you to stop asking yourself what everyone else expects and start asking what would make you happy. And if I don't know, then you figure it out, one small choice at a time. His hand rested on the bench between them, close enough to touch but not touching. Poppy looked at it, at the scars across his knuckles, the calluses from years of weapon work. She could reach for him, close the space, see what happened. Instead, she stood, stepping back. Thank you, Gregory, for the security improvements and the conversation. Understanding flickered across his face, acceptance without resentment. Anytime, Your Majesty. That night, Poppy lay in bed thinking about two men who had looked at her with desire, but not demand, who had wanted her company without requiring ownership of her body or future. The contrast to Kaylee was devastating. Her husband had claimed every right to her while wanting nothing of her actual self. Armani and Gregory had claimed nothing while offering something far more valuable. The recognition that she was a person worth knowing, not just a vessel worth using. Poppy's hand moved to her stomach, to the place where an heir might someday grow. For the first time, she felt genuine rage at what had been stolen from her. Not the throne or the title or the palace life, but the possibility of being desired for who she was rather than what she could provide. That loss felt bigger than exile, and infinitely harder to forgive. 7 months into Poppy's exile, a messenger arrived at the palace with a routine report from the Clearwater estate. Ronald Bridges' quarterly accounting, detailed and thorough, as always. Kaylee barely glanced at it initially, signing off without reading beyond the summary. The estate was profitable, Poppy was healthy, everything proceeded according to plan. Then Simone Turlot mentioned something during an afternoon council session. The Treasury audit went well, Your Majesty. Armani Lambert reported the Clearwater accounts are exceptionally well managed. He was quite impressed with the operation. Kaylee looked up from the trade agreements he'd been reviewing. Armani was there for a week, correct? Yes, sire. He requested an extension to complete a thorough review. Something cold shifted in Kaylee's chest. A week for a routine audit? He said the complexity warranted additional time. Simone shuffled his papers nervously. Is there a problem? No, Kaylee said, returning his attention to the documents. No problem. But the seed had been planted. The next report came from Bruce Richmond 2 weeks later, delivered during a private meeting about military positioning. Gregory Hobbs completed his security assessment of Clearwater, Bruce said, placing a detailed report on Kaylee's desk. He found several deficiencies and implemented comprehensive improvements. How long was he there? 2 weeks, initially. Then he requested permission to stay an additional week to ensure the new protocols were properly established. 3 weeks for a security review of a country estate? Bruce's expression remained neutral. He wanted to be thorough, Your Majesty. Given that the Queen resides there, he felt additional caution was warranted. The Queen. Kaylee's jaw tightened. And he's returned to court now? Yes, sir, though he's requested assignment to the regional patrols that include Clearwater in their rotation. Denied. Bruce's eyebrows rose slightly. Your Majesty? I said denied. Gregory is needed here. Find someone else for regional patrols. As you wish. After Bruce left, Kaylee sat alone in his study, staring at Gregory's report without reading it. 2 men. Extended visits, both requesting to return or remain near Clearwater, near Poppy. The bond between them hummed with an emotion Kaylee didn't immediately recognize. When he finally identified it, the realization disturbed him more than the situation itself. Possessiveness. He had no right to possessiveness. He dismissed her, exiled her, made it abundantly clear she was nothing more than a function to be fulfilled. Yet the thought of other men looking at her, spending time with her, wanting her attention, made something dark coil in his chest. He pulled out the reports from Clearwater, reading them properly for the first time. Ronald's accounting mentioned repairs completed by Gregory Hobbs. Clara Conway's requisition requests showed a marked increase in library books, suggesting Poppy was reading more. Lydia Mill's household reports noted that Her Majesty seemed in good spirits, taking daily walks and engaging more actively with estate management. Good spirits. The words rankled. Kaylee had sent her away expecting compliance, quiet acceptance, perhaps some dignified suffering that would make her grateful when he eventually summoned her for breeding purposes. Instead, she seemed to be thriving. He called for Simone. I need a full report on all visitors to Clearwater Estate over the past 7 months. Names, durations, purposes. Simone's quill moved quickly across parchment. Of course, Your Majesty. May I ask the reason? Security concerns. The estate has been assessed as secure, sire. Gregory's report was quite... The report is why I'm asking, Kaylee snapped. Then, more controlled. I simply want to ensure proper protocols are being followed. Simone bowed and retreated. The report arrived the next morning. Kaylee read it in private, his fingers tight on the parchment. 1 week, extended from 3 days. Reason complex accounting review. 3 weeks, extended from 2. Reason comprehensive security improvements. Lydia McCarthy, monthly visits, typically 1 day. Reason medical examinations. Baylor Doolin, 2 days. Reason grain supplier assessment. Clay Finch, 1 day. Reason livestock evaluation. Nothing improper on the surface. All legitimate business. But Kaylee read between the lines of Ronald's careful notes. Mr. Lambert proved excellent dinner company. Mr. Hobbs integrated well with the household. Her Majesty seemed to enjoy Mr. Lambert's conversation about literature. Kaylee tried to remember if he'd ever discussed literature with Poppy. If he'd ever asked what she liked to read, what interested her, what occupied her thoughts. He couldn't recall a single instance. The bond between them pulsed, and for the first time since the wedding, Kaylee reached for it intentionally, trying to sense what Poppy felt. The response was muted, distant. Not blocked, exactly, but subdued. As if she'd learned to keep her emotions close, hidden from his awareness. As if she'd learned to exist without him. The realization struck harder than expected. He'd sent her away to remove her from his daily concerns, to free himself from the burden of a wife he didn't want. But he'd assumed she would remain static in exile, waiting for his eventual summons, grateful for his attention whenever he chose to bestow it. Instead, she was developing a life that didn't include him. Men were noticing her, spending time with her, making her laugh, if Clara's cheerful reports about Her Majesty's improved mood were accurate. And Kaylee, who had dismissed her so completely, suddenly couldn't tolerate the idea of her dismissing him in return. He drafted a letter before he could reconsider. Poppy, I trust you are well. The estate reports indicate satisfactory management and good health, which pleases me. I require your presence at court for the winter solstice celebration. You will return to the palace no later than the week preceding the event. Appropriate quarters will be prepared. Arrangements for your travel will be made. Kaylee. He sealed it with the royal crest and had it sent immediately. Then he waited for her response, already planning what he would say when she arrived. How he would reassert his authority, how he would remind her that regardless of how comfortable her exile had become, she remained his wife, bound to him by law and magic. How he would make certain she remembered exactly who owned her future. The response arrived 5 days later. Your Majesty, I received your summons regarding the winter solstice celebration. Unfortunately, I am uncertain if I can accommodate the timing you've requested. The estate requires significant attention during this season, and my absence may create complications. I will review my obligations and send confirmation of my travel plans when feasible. Respectfully, Poppy Cayley. Read the letter 3 times, each reading increasing his disbelief. She had delayed, not refused outright, which would have given him grounds for direct command, but delayed, citing responsibilities that they both knew were managed perfectly well by Ronald and didn't require her presence. She was making him wait. For the first time in 7 months, Cayley felt the full weight of what he'd done. He'd dismissed a queen, exiled his wife, reduced her to a biological function, and in doing so, he'd released her from the obligation to care what he wanted. The bond between them pulled taut with his frustration, and somewhere 3 days away, Poppy likely felt the spike of his displeasure. She didn't respond to it. That, more than anything, told Cayley he'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. He'd assumed power meant control. He was beginning to understand that power meant nothing once someone stopped believing they belonged to you. And Poppy, thriving in her exile, had clearly stopped believing she belonged to anyone at all. Poppy arrived at the palace 2 days before the winter solstice celebration, later than Cayley had demanded, but early enough to avoid direct disobedience. Lydia Mills accompanied her, along with 4 guards that Gregory Hobbs had personally selected before his forced return to court. The palace looked exactly as Poppy remembered, and yet completely different. The stone walls that had once seemed imposing now felt merely large. The elaborate decorations that had once awed her now seemed excessive. 7 months of exile had changed how she saw everything, including herself. Simone Turlo greeted her in the main hall, his bow precisely calibrated to acknowledge her rank while communicating his true loyalties. Your Majesty, welcome back to court. His Majesty is in council but requests you join him for dinner this evening. Requests? Poppy raised an eyebrow. Simone's smile was thin. Expects, then. Your chambers have been prepared in the East Wing. Not the Queen's chambers? Not the rooms she'd occupied as a bride. The East Wing, where visiting nobility stayed. How thoughtful, Poppy said mildly. Please inform His Majesty I'll attend dinner at his convenience. She let Lydia guide her to the new rooms, which were beautiful in an impersonal way. No trace of her previous belongings. No acknowledgement that she'd ever lived in this palace as anything more than a guest. The message was clear. She hadn't been invited back as queen. She'd been summoned as an obligation. Fine, she could play that role. Dinner was held in the small dining room, which was still large enough to seat 20. Only 5 places were set. Cayley at the head, with Simone and Bruce on his right, and 2 empty seats on his left. Poppy entered precisely on time, Lydia trailing behind her. Every eye turned to assess her, and Poppy felt their judgment like a physical weight. She'd chosen her dress carefully. Not the elaborate court gowns she'd worn as a new bride, desperate to fit the role. Instead, a simpler design in deep blue, elegant without being ostentatious. Her hair was styled loosely rather than in the complex arrangements court fashion demanded. She looked like herself, not like someone trying to become what others expected. Cayley stood when she entered, his eyes moving over her with an expression she couldn't read. Poppy, you look well. Exile agrees with me, she said, taking her seat without waiting for his assistance. The subtle challenge registered. Bruce's lips twitched. Simone's eyes widened slightly. Cayley sat slowly, his jaw tight. I'm pleased the estate has proven comfortable. Comfortable enough that leaving it felt quite inconvenient. Silence fell. Lydia took her seat beside Poppy, her presence a quiet support. Nevertheless, Cayley said, his voice carrying alpha authority, your presence was required. There are matters we need to discuss. Such as your continued absence from court. People talk. Poppy accepted wine from a servant, taking a slow sip before responding. People always talk. I've learned their talk means very little. It means something when it concerns the Queen's fitness for her position. Then perhaps you should have considered that before exiling me. The words dropped like stones into still water. Bruce cleared his throat. Simone found his plate suddenly fascinating. Cayley's eyes narrowed. I did not exile you. I provided you with a comfortable home away from the demands of court life. Is that what we're calling it now? Poppy set down her wine glass carefully. I must have misunderstood the conversation we had on our wedding night, the one where you told me to give you an heir and disappear. Simone's fork clattered against his plate. That was not, Kaylee started. Not what you meant? Poppy's voice remained calm, conversational. Then please, explain what you did mean. That because I've spent 7 months trying to understand how a husband tells his wife to disappear and calls it kindness. This is not an appropriate conversation for dinner, Kaylee said tightly. Then when would be appropriate? You've ignored every letter I sent in the first 3 months. You've responded to exactly none of my attempts at communication. You've treated our marriage like a business transaction where my only value is reproductive. Poppy. So please, Your Majesty, tell me when it would be appropriate to discuss the fact that you used me and discarded me within hours of our wedding. The room had gone completely silent. Lydia sat still as stone beside her, eyes forward. Bruce looked like he wanted to disappear. Simone's face had gone pale. Kaylee's alpha presence filled the room, pressing down with the weight of command. You will not speak to me this way. Or what? Poppy met his eyes directly. You'll send me away? Already done. You'll refuse to acknowledge me? Already doing it. You'll reduce me to a function? That was the plan from the beginning. She stood, her movements controlled and deliberate. I came because you summoned me. I've attended your dinner. I've fulfilled the obligation. If there's nothing else, I'd like to retire. The journey was long. Sit down, Kaylee commanded. The Alpha Order rippled through the bond between them, ancient magic demanding obedience. Poppy felt the pull, felt her body want to comply, trained by generations of pack hierarchy to submit. She remained standing. No, she said quietly. The single word seemed to echo in the silence. Kaylee stood as well, towering over her, his authority absolute. I am your king, your alpha, your husband, you will obey. You are my husband in name only. You made that clear when you told me to disappear. Poppy's voice didn't rise, didn't waver. I'm simply doing what you commanded. Becoming invisible, unimportant, easy to dismiss. That's not what I wanted. Then what do you want, Kaylee? The question hung between them, raw and genuine. For a long moment he said nothing. The mask of absolute authority cracked slightly, revealing something uncertain beneath. I want you to remember your place, he finally said. My place. Poppy nodded slowly. My place is wherever you decide I should be. My value is whatever function you assign me. My future is whatever serves your needs. She picked up her napkin, folding it with precise movements. I understand my place perfectly, Your Majesty. Do you understand yours? She left before he could answer, Lydia following silently behind her. They reached Poppy's chambers before either spoke. That was dangerous, Lydia said quietly. I know. He could compel you, force obedience through the mate bond. He could try. Poppy moved to the window, looking out at the palace grounds. But I think we both just discovered that I'm stronger than he assumed. What happens now? Poppy touched the mating mark on her neck, feeling the bond hum with Kaylee's confusion and anger. Now we find out if a king can admit he was wrong, or if his pride is more important than his queen. The winter solstice celebration was held 2 days later in the grand ballroom. 500 guests from every major pack territory, all dressed in their finest, all pretending not to notice the tension between the king and queen. Poppy wore red. Not the demure pastels expected of queens, but deep crimson that made her impossible to ignore. She entered the ballroom alone, her head high, and watched the crowd part around her. Kaylee stood near his throne, surrounded by advisors. His eyes found her immediately, and something heated flashed across his face. Anger, desire, possessiveness, all the things he'd forfeited the right to feel. Poppy moved through the crowd, accepting greetings with gracious smiles. She danced with Bruce Richmond when he asked, with Baylor Doolin who'd traveled from Clearwater, with strangers whose names she immediately forgot. She did not approach the king. Halfway through the evening, Pamela Brock materialized beside her, curiosity bright in her eyes. Your Majesty, how wonderful to see you back at court. We've all missed your presence. How kind, Poppy said neutrally. The country must have been so quiet, so isolated. You must be relieved to return to civilization. Actually, I found the isolation quite pleasant. Peaceful, even. Pamela's smile tightened. Still, a queen belongs at her king's side, don't you think? I think a queen belongs wherever she chooses to be, Poppy said, meeting Pamela's eyes directly. Assuming she's treated as a person rather than property. Pamela's mouth opened, then closed. She excused herself quickly. The exchange had been noticed. Poppy saw whispers spreading through the crowd, eyes turning toward her with new interest. Then Kaylee was there, appearing at her elbow with the silent grace of a predator. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "We're at a celebration, Your Majesty. Talking can wait." His hand closed around her wrist, not painfully but firmly. Now, Poppy. She could refuse, make a scene, force him to either back down or escalate publicly. Instead, she nodded once. He led her to a private balcony overlooking the gardens, closing the doors behind them. The music from the ballroom became muffled, leaving them in relative quiet. "You're embarrassing me," Kaylee said without preamble. "I'm existing. If that embarrasses you, perhaps you should examine why. You challenged me in front of my advisors. You refused a direct command. You're conducting yourself like a woman with no respect for her king." "I have respect for kingship," Poppy said calmly. "I have less respect for men who treat their wives like livestock." Kaylee's jaw clenched. "I never treated you like livestock. You told me to give you an heir and disappear. What would you call that? I was giving you freedom, releasing you from obligations you weren't prepared for. You were discarding me because you didn't want the inconvenience of a wife. I didn't want you hurt." The admission burst from him, surprising them both. "Court life destroys people, Poppy. The politics, the constant manipulation, the way everyone uses everyone else. I was protecting you. By isolating me, by reducing me to a breeding function, by making me feel so worthless that I spent 3 months wondering if I should just disappear permanently?" His expression fractured. "What? You made me feel like nothing," Poppy whispered. "Like my only value was biological. Like once I'd served that purpose, I could be erased completely. Do you have any idea what that does to a person?" "I didn't mean. What you meant doesn't matter. What you did is what counts." She stepped back, creating distance. "You married me, used me, and exiled me within 24 hours. Then you forgot I existed until other men started noticing me. That's not protection, Kaylee. That's cruelty dressed as kindness. The other men don't matter. They matter to me, because they saw me as a person. They talked to me like I had thoughts worth hearing. They made me remember that I'm more than a vessel for your legacy." Jealousy flashed hot across his face. "Did you sleep with them?" The question was ugly, possessive, and completely revealing. "Would it matter if I had?" Poppy asked quietly. "You have no claim to my body beyond the legal contract you established. You made that abundantly clear. You're my wife. I'm your breeding mare. You said so yourself." Kaylee flinched. "I never used those words. You didn't have to. The meaning was clear enough." He moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the small balcony space. "Poppy, I don't." She held up her hand. "Don't apologize unless you're prepared to change. Don't express regret unless you're willing to acknowledge what you've done. Don't touch me unless you're ready to see me as a person instead of a function. I do see you." "No, you don't. You see a problem, something that's not behaving as expected. You see defiance that needs to be corrected, independence that needs to be controlled, but you don't see me." The bond between them ached with unspoken things, years of possibilities crushed under the weight of his original dismissal. "What do you want from me?" Kaylee asked roughly. "Nothing," Poppy said, and meant it. "I want nothing from you, Kaylee. That's what you've spent 7 months teaching me. How to want nothing, how to expect nothing, how to be nothing." She moved toward the door. "Poppy, wait. I'm returning to Clearwater tomorrow. You can send for me when you actually need me for that heir you want. But until then, leave me alone. You don't get to discard me and reclaim me whenever convenient." She opened the door, pausing once more. "You were right about one thing," she said quietly. "I'm not suited for court life, because court life requires pretending to care about people who see you as objects, and I'm done pretending." She left him on the balcony and returned to the celebration. For the rest of the evening, she smiled and danced and laughed with people who would never know that she just refused a king. And when she finally returned to her chambers, alone, she didn't cry. She'd run out of tears for a marriage that had never really existed. 3 months passed before Kaylee reached out again. Poppy spent them at Clearwater, and this time, exile felt like sanctuary rather than punishment. She walked the grounds daily, learned estate management from Ronald, studied healing with Lydia McCarthy, and slowly rebuilt herself into someone who didn't define her worth through someone else's approval. Armani Lambert visited twice, ostensibly for accounting reviews, but really for the conversation they both enjoyed. They discussed books and philosophy and the structural flaws in pack hierarchy systems. He never touched her beyond polite greeting, never pushed for more than she offered. But his eyes said he would, if she wanted him to. Gregory Hobbs appeared once, claiming patrol duties brought him near Clearwater. He stayed 3 days, fixing things around the estate and having quiet conversations with Poppy in the evening. On his last night, as they walked the stream path, his hand brushed hers. "I could request permanent assignment to the regional guard," he said quietly, "if you wanted me nearby." "Why would you do that?" "Because being near you feels better than being anywhere else." Poppy's throat tightened. "I'm still married, Gregory." "I know. Doesn't change how I feel." She didn't answer, but she didn't pull her hand away either. When Gregory left, he kissed her forehead gently, not claiming, just offering. Poppy stood in the doorway long after he'd ridden away, her fingers touching the spot he'd kissed, feeling something fragile and new unfold in her chest. Hope, maybe, or just the recognition that desire didn't require ownership. Kaylee's letter arrived on the first day of spring. "Poppy, I've had time to consider our last conversation. You were right about many things. I've treated you poorly, and I cannot undo that damage, but I would like to try to do better. Please return to court. Not as an obligation, but as my guest. Give me the opportunity to know you as I should have from the beginning. Kaylee." Poppy read it 3 times, looking for manipulation, for hidden commands, for any sign that this was simply another attempt at control. All she found was honesty that felt raw and uncertain. Lydia Mills found her in the library an hour later, the letter still in her hand. "He's asking you back," Lydia said, reading Poppy's expression accurately. "Yes." "Will you go?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me knows it's a mistake." "Which part is louder?" Poppy smiled slightly. "The part that knows it's a mistake, but the part that wants to is more stubborn." "Then maybe you should listen to both. Go back, but on your terms. See if he's actually changed or if this is just another strategy. And if it's a strategy, then you leave again, and this time, you stay gone." Poppy returned to the palace 2 weeks later, alone except for Lydia. She wore traveling clothes rather than court dress, her hair braided simply, her demeanor calm. Kaylee met her in the private receiving room, not the throne room. He was dressed casually as well, without the heavy regalia of kingship. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm here to listen," Poppy replied, "not to promise anything." "That's fair." They sat across from each other, the distance between them both physical and emotional. "I owe you an apology," Kaylee began. "A real one, not the diplomatic version. I treated you abominably. I reduced you to a function because it was easier than acknowledging you as a person who might expect things from me." "Why was that easier?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because people leave. People disappoint. People demand pieces of you that you're not sure you can give. If I kept you at a distance, kept you defined by a simple role, I wouldn't have to risk failing you in more complicated ways. So you failed me in the simplest way possible instead." "Yes." He met her eyes. "And I'm sorry, truly. You deserve better than what I gave you, better than exile and dismissal, and being treated like your only value was biological." Poppy absorbed the apology, testing it for sincerity. It felt genuine. "What changed?" she asked. "Why apologize now after months of silence?" "Because I realized something." Kaylee leaned forward, his expression open in a way she'd never seen. "Power means nothing if the person you want to matter simply doesn't care what you think anymore. I had all the authority in the world, and you walked away from me without looking back. That did something to me, made me understand that I'd thrown away something real in pursuit of something safe. I'm not something to be possessed, Kaylee. I know, that's what I'm trying to say. Badly, apparently." He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. "I don't want to possess you, Poppy. I want to know you, to give you the chance I should have given you from the beginning. And if I say no, if I choose to stay at Clearwater permanently?" Pain crossed his face. "Then I respect that choice, and spend the rest of my life regretting mine." Poppy stood, moving to the window. The palace garden stretched below, carefully manicured and controlled. "I've changed," she said quietly. "The woman you married doesn't exist anymore. She was broken on our wedding night and rebuilt in exile. What's left is harder, more certain, less willing to bend." "Good," Kaylee said, surprising her. "You should be hard. You should be certain. You should bend for no one, including me." Not the response I expected from a king. "I'm trying to be less of a king and more of a man, for you." Poppy turned to face him. "I need time. Real time, not a few days where you're on your best behavior. I need to see if this change is genuine or just another strategy." How much time? However long it takes for me to trust you. If that ever happens. Kaylee nodded slowly. I can accept that. And I'm going back to Clearwater. If you want to pursue this, you can visit me there. On my territory, my terms. For a moment his alpha instincts rebelled against the idea. Poppy could see the struggle on his face, the difficulty of surrendering control. Then he nodded. When can I visit? When I invite you, not before. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. You've become formidable. I've become myself. That's more dangerous than formidable. She moved toward the door, pausing before leaving. One more thing, Kaylee. If you hurt me again, if you reduce me to a function or dismiss me or treat me as anything less than a person deserving respect, I will leave. Permanently. No second chances, no reconciliation, no possibility of return. Do you understand? I understand. Then we'll see what happens. Poppy returned to Clearwater that evening, Lydia beside her in the carriage. You're giving him a chance, Lydia observed. A very small one, Poppy agreed. Conditional on him proving he's actually changed. Do you think he has? I think he wants to. Whether he can maintain